coming up on this episode of Belief Hole.
That's the interesting thing, is that hundreds of calls come in from the area saying, what is the sound? And they couldn't find the source. They're in the middle of nowhere, cross-country skiing, when they stop and record it, and it sounds so loud that it drowns out their voices, and it sounds like it's coming from all above them in the forest. It sounds almost animalistic, tearing through the fabric of reality. Godzilla.
Have you seen pictures of a lot of this stuff, like inside the technology, what it actually looks like?
Oh, it's incredible.
There's something very dark about it to me. It does feel very interdimensional.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the movie...
Event Horizon?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. Yeah, you see Sam Neill with his skin sack jumping off the railing.
If you care about the future of humanity, you have to understand this stuff. You have to at least understand how it's being exposed to us on these levels without our even knowing it. We've been prepared for so long, through television and media to accept these kinds of things and not even question.
Well, yeah, that's when I first heard that Shiva connection. I thought that was so bizarre, even before I knew about the CERN conspiracy. Right. Just because it reminded me of that Oppenheimer quote after he created the atomic bomb.
Where he says, I have become death, destroyer of worlds. That's a pretty dark quote.
So let's put that God right in the middle of the Large Hadron Collider.
Science at the highest level sometimes is guided by these occult ideas.
Yes, I think there are potentially terrifying occult things going on there, but I think even aside from that, I think what they're doing is terrifying. I think that even scientists that work there are frightened because they're tampering with things that they don't understand. We could be creating the end of ourselves.
Game over, man.
It's all real. It's all real. Conspiracy.
Synchronicity. Sasquatch.
Donald Trump.
Alien races. Satanism in Hollywood. MK Ultra.
Pleiadians.
Mandela Effect.
Close the door, Ed.
Jeremy! Close your door!
Snowflakes.
Inner Earth. Disagreements.
My lab.
JFK assassination.
Flat Earth.
Corey Feldman. Magicians are demons. Specters and spooks. Sleep paralysis. Muslim Islamicists. The gender spectrum. Yes. Alternative history. Shadow people.
Quiet, I'm trying to say words with the mouth.
Psilocybin. Sorcery. Poltergeist. Sulforaphane. Evolution. Is it real?
Skull and Bones. I would never talk about it. That's old. Y2K.
Cover-ups. The Oklahoma City bombing. Vampire.
Hey, Donkey Lips is into chemtrails. You forgot to mention that last time.
We'll have to mention that in this episode.
I'm not talking for the first 10 minutes, just so you know.
Chris will be happy. We'll get to the topic right away.
Shut up!
Shut up!
Shut up,
Donnie.
There was this girl in our elementary that always go, shut up!
Are you thinking of the movie Donnie Darko?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was in Donnie Darko.
That was in my...
That's amazing.
I do the same thing.
It's
I do the
amazing.
same thing.
Well, hello.
Hello. We're just mixing memories with media.
Movies in middle school.
And scolding Jeremy's horribleness for ruining the second take.
Yeah, this is take 3. I told you guys, you got to remind me to hit record. How long have you been working with audio?
It remind you to put your underwear on in the morning?
I don't wear underwear, John.
Oh, wait, Jeremy, let's confirm.
waste of
Is it
space.
recording right now?
It is recording. I am looking at the screen.
Why don't you go tweeze your empty space?
Tell that story again.
That sounds more dirty than
My empty space. That does sound dirty.
You're referring to your balls.
I'm
not
referring
dirty.
to my widow's peak. I was referencing how I woke up the other day and I noticed that I had one little hair growing in the empty space where my hair used to grow on the sides of my head. And it just looked like he had showed up to a party that he thought was happening on that day, but none of his friends were around anymore or they missed the date. Where'd you go? So I was like, sorry, bud, you gotta go.
They're like, sorry, it was yesterday.
So I plucked him out of there. He's like, oh, God darn it.
I hope I'm one of those guys that when I really lose most of my hair, I still really want to hold on to a few of them. Just let them sit. They have the little tufts here and there.
Don't do that.
I think I'm going to get one of those clown tufts
clown
the way my
puff?
peak's going. Yeah, it's pretty
Just where it's
terrifying.
like an inch, like in a circle on the top of your head.
Exactly. Like the Commish. Remember that show? Was it the Commish I'm thinking of? No.
yeah, you are.
Is it the Commish?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Commish.
Later became
He had
the
I
Shield.
swear he looked younger as he got older.
Well, it's because he got that puff off his head.
That's true.
You can't do the puff, man.
You gotta commit.
You look like you're a tired dad who just doesn't have time to cut off his puff.
I think it worked okay in the 90s.
He's like, it's hiding something there, right? Like there's something being hidden.
Yeah, it's
up
doing
there.
something.
He shaved it off and there's one giant mole right there.
It's a birthmark.
Yeah, but this is take 3. Take 3 of.
I'm sorry, guys. The screen is literally right here, but it's in my bad eye. I have a bad eye because of a BB gun accident when I was younger.
Don't make excuses. Just own it.
I did. I definitely own it. I'm just saying why it happened.
Because of my bad eye.
It's in my right
Really?
eye, peripheral vision. I don't have peripheral vision in this eye.
You're staring sideways at the computer screen?
It's to the right of me. I can barely see it. Although, however, it is right in Chris's direct vision. He's
All right,
looking
fair
at
enough.
it.
I can kind of see what you're saying.
It's not my fault.
Yes, it is.
It is my fault. I own it. I will own it. It's my fault. I'm sorry, guys.
All right. Well, let's move on. This will be the best one.
It's okay. In a parallel world that CERN is investigating.
Speaking of parallel worlds, way to bring it in,
I was going to
Chris.
say, in a parallel world, there's a Jeremy that did the correct thing and started the recording. We finished it last night.
and makes a reasonable living.
And CERN's investigating that world right now through its dimensional rip.
Yes.
And that's our episode
That
today.
is our topic today. We will be discussing
CERN, strangeness, and skyquakes.
CERN has some crazy occult connections, let me tell you. But maybe not as much as the Goddard Tunnel in Switzerland that I'll also be discussing, which is another, but it's right by CERN, so it's like the same thing.
Is it connected?
Some people think it's connected underground.
Some people think.
But it doesn't matter. It's still like, I think it's like the largest tunnel made, this gigantic endeavor that was taken with this crazy occult ritual that took place, which I'm going to break down a little bit because it is bizarre. But before we get into that, we're going to do skyquakes.
We will. I think every tunnel needs a good occult ritual to open it.
Yeah, that's true. If you want the demons to come out.
But yeah, skyquakes. We're going to get into the skyquakes a little bit.
John's excited about the clouds, right, John?
Yeah, I'm excited about the cloud quakes for sure.
They're not clouds. There are no clouds in this episode.
Chris gets really aggravated.
I like them as cloud quakes. It sounds better.
We did chemtrails.
Alliteration.
Well, why is there no clouds in it, Chris?
If you want the alliteration, you call them sky sounds, which is what
That's
I call
gross,
them.
though.
Cloud quake sounds like more like clappy. Like it has the hard
Yeah.
K. Ka.
Thunderclappy. Yeah, you need at least the sky quakes. You need the quake in there. You can't do sky sounds.
Sky sounds.
Sky
Yeah,
sounds.
like that could be an airplane. No one knows what you're talking about.
Sky sounds. Well, skyquakes, or if you want to call them cloud quakes, that's the more bangy, big bang, unexplained bang explosion sounds that they've investigated and can't put any scientific explanation to. We'll get more into that later. But I think the cool things, what I call sky sounds, are the ripping trumpet sounds that go through the sky. That sounds like gears turning and like ripping a hole into another reality.
Yeah, they're like the semi-break sounds you hear that they used in the Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park. That kind of like long, hollow.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it sounds like an air raid siren from hell.
Well, what's crazy is the closer you are to wherever the source is. I mean, this is just from listening to a bunch of clips, but there was one clip that I couldn't find, and I'll look for it, maybe put in the show notes, but it sounds like they're right underneath it in the middle of nowhere. But that's when you really hear the mixture of like dissonant trumpets and metal gears screeching.
Yeah.
And it's so loud in that clip. And the other ones there, it's a little further away.
Well, haven't people thought it's like Armageddon or the...
Depends on which rabbit hole you want to go down. Some people think it's... trumpets summoning Armageddon and like the return of the Nephilim.
It does. I mean, it does.
Other people think it's CERN opening up portals.
I'd love to see Chris see it, like what he would do. Like he would go like hug Jeremy. And
make
like,
Chris sound like such a baby.
What's wrong with hugging Jeremy?
Okay, he is a baby.
I'm not a baby. I'm a very manly man.
Jeremy.
You're very attached to this reality, and I think you would.
Excuse
if you
me, I
thought it
write
was-
fiction.
John and I are
so-
ready to jump, and you're like shackled to your nostalgia.
I'm not very much attached to this reality. I'm attached to my past reality. I miss my childhood.
Yeah,
I feel like the older I get, the less real life seems. So I feel like I'm pretty much ready to splinter off into another dimension or afterlife existence.
The other day, I was looking at Chris.
Okay, fence sitter.
We were both kind of a rough day, and I looked at Chris, and I was like, "It's gonna get better, brother. Someday." And Chris is like, "Yeah, one day we'll be kids again."
I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
I was like, "What are you talking about?"
I said, wouldn't it be awesome if the afterlife you're just like 10 years old forever?
Yeah, no, but it was more like, just think about being a kid again. Like, that's the
That's
best.
so funny, dude.
We
That's
still have our whole
hilarious.
adult lives we could make
Yeah,
good.
but you got to worry about bills and
You want to jump to being reincarnated.
That's becoming an adult. You want to have adult, and you want to be an adult and embrace responsibility. It's just so funny, dude. Like someday we'll be kids again.
Don't you ever miss like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, the
I don't-
comfort of
No, not just the comfort for the love of Lord. The
adventure.
Being a kid sucked. You had no control over your life. I mean, yeah, there was.
well, you know how like the world is so big, summers last forever. Like, you know, the woods behind your house goes on for miles.
There's monsters around every
Monsters
turn.
around every turn. Maybe that's why I still choose to believe in monsters and
Do you
ghosts.
choose it though?
No,
or are you
I know.
just scared?
I know what you're saying, Chris. We're just giving you a hard time.
Get bent.
Get bent. Sit and spin.
Sit on it and spin. That's what it is.
Go sit on a tack.
Yeah, but it sounds so. These skyquakes, they sound like sound like the Valkyries coming down, summoning like Ragnarok or something. Like they just sound like they're apocryphal. Like,
yeah, or as you would imagine that would sound, because
yeah.
you have really
Although
nothing to compare to.
my favorite theory is the idea that they're these giant Nephilim or Titans that were put down under the earth, imprisoned in massive steel gates by the Creator or some older force, and now they're opening them. And now you hear like the echoing of the like through the caverns,
Or like the elder gods coming through.
yeah, the old gods, like at the end of that Joss Whedon movie.
Well, and that goes back to the CERN thing, right? I mean, it kind of connects the skyquakes and CERN. But yeah, conspiracy theorists and people who've been researching this sort of phenomenon, a lot of them tend to believe that CERN is sort of opening up, potentially could be opening up portals. And I think that comes from...
They're absolutely opening up portals.
It comes from what they're doing. It comes from the weird occult stuff that goes on there. It comes from the very nature of kind of what they're attempting to do. And even what some scientists who work there have said some of their concerns are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether it's tearing an opening, a little keyhole into another dimension, or whether it's creating unintentional black holes that might drop into the core of our planet and eat it from the inside.
I think they're very intentional.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make the mini black. I think they've come out saying they're trying to make the mini black holes.
No, they're trying to make antimatter.
Right, which
Right.
eats matter, which is equally terrifying.
Whatever they're doing, it ain't for the good of humanity. I'm
Is
pretty
no
sure.
good.
I don't think antimatter eats matter. It's very explosive. That's why they want to develop
does.
it.
They destroy each other is the idea. Man, they can't exist in the same.
Yeah, so you would have like, I forget the ratio, but it's like for every like little bit of antimatter, you get, you know, so many explosions of dynamite.
Yeah, it's similar
Kilotons,
to
whatever.
nuclear fission in like a nuclear bomb, atomic bomb, not fusion but fission.
Yeah, but we'll get into some of this, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of
we're
it
getting in the
wrong.
weeds. Let's get to skyquakes.
Let's do the news.
Yeah, you want to jump into the news?
Okay, let's do the news real quick. This may or may not have happened recently in the news.
Yeah, some of this is from we were going to do last episode, but ran out of time.
Hey, would you like me to play the stinger, silly boys?
Yeah, we're trying to give an introduction here, John.
Sting it, John.
You sting
us the news.
first, and then you talk about it. Ready?
Let's do the news.
We are valid news.
That'll never get old.
All right, Chris, what is our first news item on the agenda?
So this first one's a little old, and some of you might have heard of this, but we wanted to cover it in the last episode, and we just didn't get around to it. Ran out of time. John, I'd ask you if you've heard of this, but since we recorded 40 minutes last night and Jeremy failed, you have heard of this now. The Satanist school shooting.
Oh, yeah. This is shooting at the Satanic school or the...
Sorry, did I grammatically? Did I form that grammatically incorrect?
I think that's still correct.
Who saw that one coming?
It was supposedly it wasn't a shooting. It was a stabbing. It was inspired by
that's right.
Satan, according to
Well,
the
it wasn't.
stabbers.
It was an attempted stabbing
Attempted
and
stabbing.
mutilation. Here, let's read a little bit from the article. This is from USA Today. So the headline is: Florida girls plotted to stab dozens of students and drink victims' blood. Police say. Two Florida girls.
Spooky.
Two Florida girls brought knives to their middle school in an alleged attempt to kill and mutilate fellow students for satanic reasons, officials said Wednesday. No one was harmed in the foiled plot, which was discovered Tuesday at Bartlow Middle School in Central Florida. Police say the girls, ages 11 and 12, isn't that fucked up? 11 and 12, were found in a bathroom stall, allegedly with multiple knives, a pizza cutter, and knife sharpener in their possession. The girls plan to commit suicide after stabbing other students, police say. So,
yeah.
That's awful.
A couple creepy things about that. One, the knife sharpener, like they're going to do it so many times that their knife's going to get dull.
well, bones will wear down a blade.
That's right. They wanted to chop them up and leave their body parts in them.
Yeah, body parts, I think, towards at the entrances.
And the weirdest thing, too, is
Did
that
they get
want...
suspended?
No, they just got a slap on the wrist. I think a couple detentions.
What?
No, the guy's
Shut up.
seeking expulsion, it says here. I don't know as far as like criminal.
I think there
what
would
they can
be-
do.
I'm sure
Just
they'll go to juvie.
until they're 18, probably.
Yeah.
They have to write, I will not murder my fellow students like 100 times on a blackboard.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's weird to think that these kids came up with this on their own or weren't inspired by maybe someone older in their life or something.
Well, that's a pretty dark thing to do. I mean, I know that your mind can be warped at that age. It's pretty malleable. I mean, I thought
Guys,
some weird
this
things.
is inspired by the devil.
Well, that's what they
Potentially.
say. And they're the weirdest thing,
Potentially. Where else would it come from? If there's evil in the world and there's 12-year-olds trying to cut up their students, like, you don't think that's just pure evil at that point? Like where else would that come from?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I believe in the stereotypical horned
Well,
devil.
it doesn't have to be the stereotypical horned devil, but like
Inspired by evil, I would say.
All
yeah,
we ever talk
for
about
sure.
is these demonic influences in people's lives. And you're like, well, it could have just been like an older friend or a father figure.
I didn't say that, you turd.
Oh no, that was me. But what I was referring to was maybe someone older who's into the occult or into like something.
Yeah, I
would
think it's
whisper in their ear, like you know.
Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky when you just, it's always the devil. Like, I think then you start to
evil.
miss things. You start to miss other people involved in scenarios. You start to miss like cultural.
Well, the other people are influenced by evil too.
Sure, but I'm just saying it's, well, even if it is the devil initially, it might be good to look at.
I shouldn't have said the devil. I should have said evil because it's such a loaded term at this point.
What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a lot of evil things, I think, in culture and in lifestyle and shitty parenting that contribute to this kind of stuff too. So to just say, well, the devil possessed them, you might overlook some crappy environmental causes.
I didn't say that.
No, he
Okay,
just,
well, you know what I mean.
I just said there was definitely influenced by that for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
By
Just
evil.
calling a spade is all.
Yep. I thought it was kind of, it wasn't funny because none of the story's funny, but the fact that they thought that they were going there to drink alcohol in the bathroom, and that's what they got in trouble for because they had a goblet.
Yeah, the administration or whoever wandered in and found a goblet in the bathroom.
Let's move off this specific story. It's not. Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Director John has moved us from the
Well,
story.
we spent quite a bit of time on it already, and there's not like nothing happened to them. No one died. It's just
No.
Well, the audience didn't know that because you just ended it and said, let's move on.
Yeah, so no one was killed in the making of this potential murder. And,
boy, okay.
But the girls did plan on chopping up pieces of people and then killing themselves at the end, which I thought was extra messed up that you're that dedicated to murder your classmates and then murder yourself. And for what they said it was for Satan, right? It's like the whole
Well,
Slender
that was
Man
the
thing.
whole point, and I was going to get to that before John decided to end the segment.
But he had no influence over it.
Well, yeah, that's what they believed.
Yeah, right. They said they watched some scary movies and decided that if they killed enough people at school, then they were guaranteed to get into hell, and where Satan would take care of them and love them.
What movie glorifies
I don't know. You got to be pretty messed. That's why I was saying, like, I
Hell
mean,
looks
where
fun.
are the parents at all in this situation?
Right. That's crazy. Hey, what's our next story, Chris?
Hey, next story.
Probably were like foster kids, or their real parents probably weren't in the picture very much, I would imagine. Or they were.
Or they just sucked.
Or they were just possessed by the devil.
Or they were just on their
overnight.
smartphones all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do
Smartphones.
an episode at some point on near-death experiences of hell because they're pretty insane. And also, there's people that talk about, they spent their lives basically communing with the devil, Satan, and they would perform rituals to black magic to kill people. In my mind, it's without a doubt these forces exist. So that's all I was saying earlier. It's like,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think whatever you call it, like it's all the same dark evil shit.
Right.
You know?
And even if you don't believe it, there are people that do and are practicing it.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like even if you don't believe it, it believes in you, and I think that's an important distinction to
And
make.
I hope we get to it in this episode, but if we don't, I really hope we do, because there's a strange tie-in with CERN, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, in this ceremony that was done at Loch Ness, where he actually moved into this manor and had this river sand around part of this structure so he could see the 9 kings of hell when they entered for the ceremony.
Come on in.
Interesting story, but I don't know if we'll get to that. But if we don't, we'll do another episode. But that does tie in, though, right, Jaron?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we can move on for now, John, if you want. Go on to the next story. I was thinking we could save this next story for the Patreon episode, because it'd be a great one to just riff off, the Chinese social credit score. I guess we can briefly touch on it, and then we can expound upon it later in an off the cuff for Patreon members.
Expound upon it.
That'll kind of branch off into, I think, a lot of discussion on modern technology, artificial intelligence, the dangers of
Chinese trains.
Of Chinese drains.
Yeah, I want to
trains.
bring
Chinese
up
trains.
the chip in the arm has been revitalized in a lot of banking conversations, and that seems to be there's like some pushes again to make that.
Well, so let's explain this story, and then we can always go into more of it later. This is the idea of the Chinese social credit score. This is from Wired. It's been in a lot of publications, though. A lot of you might have heard of this already, but this is Wired. The headline reads, "The Odd Reality of Life Under China's All-Seeing Credit Score System." And I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs here. In the UK, credit scores are mostly used to determine whether people can get a credit card or loan, but in China, the government is developing a much broader social credit system, partly based on people's routine behaviors with the ultimate goal of determining the, quote, trustworthiness of the country's 1.4 billion citizens. It might sound like a futuristic dystopian nightmare, but the system is already a reality. Social credit is preventing people from buying airline and train tickets, stopping social gatherings from happening, and blocking people from going on certain dating websites. Meanwhile, those viewed kindly are rewarded with discounted energy bills and similar perks. So
Weird.
Yeah, well, this is the other thing. This story has really been, I think, overblown in a lot of publications. I think more recently it's come out and it's taking place in little pockets of China, different towns and small neighborhoods, and they're kind of testing it out, and specifically a lot of businesses. But yeah, it's basically, you kind of get punished if you don't take your trash out on time, or you're smoking in a non-smoking area. Your social credit score will go down, and they've started rolling this out in I think 2015, and want to completely roll it out in 2020. So like a year and some change from now
In China.
So we'll see how much of the technology they actually have to make it,
It's just like that Black Mirror episode, if anyone's seen that.
Yeah.
It's like if you go through your day and you get rated based on if like people smile at you and whatever. And
yeah,
your
you're like
rating
a walking Yelp review.
You spill your coffee on someone, your rating goes down. And if you get in that spiral of your rating going down, eventually you become like this outcast in your society because you can't get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I just don't know how anyone could possibly, that has any concern for the future of humanity, think that this is a good idea. Like, we already have so many problems with the way social media is right now, with depression and how people see themselves. I just feel like, as any person that has any sort of grounding in life and realizing how fast we're moving through this technological shift, like, this is just so not a positive direction. I just don't see how people that have any sort of connection with their humanity could think this could possibly be a good idea.
Right. Well, and that's what I was going to say. And that's, you can tell the difference of media response to this in the U.S. versus China. Obviously, China, they've been moving towards this, they've been moving towards this kind of social communism, forever. And they're trying to integrate it with their technology. But if you look at the U.S. response and, all the newspapers, magazines, they're all like dystopian future ahead for China. So it seems like the overwhelming, I don't think there's a lot of people in the U.S.
Yeah, but the scary part is Google is already working with China to come up with this censored search engine.
Right, for China.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just scary when the largest technological company, one of them in the United States that searches all our searches, basically. They basically have a monopoly at this point.
Oh, yeah,
that
absolutely.
They're openly involved in censorship with, this regime in China.
Yeah.
This dictatorship that, I don't know if they're a dictatorship exactly, but they're definitely
They're a
communist
dictatorship, aren't
or,
they? Dictatorship.
We are so smart. Oligarchy, dictatorship. Yeah, they're definitely, they're a communist regime.
It's just scary that, you can say one thing about, wanting to support freedom, but we already know what they're doing with
Well, even in the United States.
censorship. Yeah, they're already with YouTube and
Google's
the
Good Censor that was
exactly,
leaked.
Yeah.
What is the Good Censor?
The Good Censor is Google. It was leaked that there's this concept of the Good Censor where essentially like there's the European model. They have like an appreciation for freedom, but then they also really value dignified conversation and politeness. And so in the Good Censor, in the documents that were leaked, I think that's where this was from, they said that the European model leans on, if it comes down to like dignified conversation versus
freedom of speech,
they lean towards dignified conversation, and that's where we're going in the future here. And that was leaked with the Good Censor, which is the idea that Google is going to start censoring.
Yeah, who decides what dignified conversation is?
Well, it's so weird to
question.
me because, you ever watch parliamentary debates in England? They're pretty nasty. They don't wait for each other. There's not a lot of decorum there.
I don't think it's dignified. I don't think that's just a veil for what they really mean. It just means that it means conversation that they want you to hear. It means their point of view and not
controlled conversation.
So Orwellian.
So, yeah, it's like having a difference of opinion from what the mainstream standard is definitely considered non-dignified conversation, which is the scary part.
That is terrifying. I would agree.
Anyways, yeah, we could talk about this forever, I think, and we should definitely do a Patreon where we bring this up again.
Let's do that this month. We should go more in depth on the social credit score and technology censorship in general.
So we can get censored.
So not on Patreon.
Yeah, come to our subscribers section on Patreon. Become a patron and you will get unfettered access to our craziest thoughts that cannot be censored.
Unfettered.
I like that word.
All
right, Chris, what's our next story, man?
All right, last story of the day. Mysterious massive stone ball discovered in Bosnia. You guys heard about this?
No, it sounds fascinating, though.
A 10-foot wide stone ball recently discovered in a Bosnia forest is touching off a hot debate in academic circles. Was it created by Mother Nature or a lost civilization? So this is that kind of age-old debate between archaeologists and, quote, pseudo-archaeologists who are like, this is like a 300-ton ball, I think, or was it 30-ton? Either way, it's massive.
Right.
And the one guy who's studying it right now believes it's...
Where was this again?
like a Bosnian forest? Bosnian forest, yeah.
Did you see a picture of it?
Oh, yeah, it looks crazy. It looks like a Photoshop job.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen these before. I don't know if they're...
This is the biggest one.
biggest
record.
one?
Yeah, it's huge. It's like 9 feet tall.
It looks like a dinosaur egg.
Does it look like a dinosaur egg? Isn't that,
So it's not a perfect... Is it a perfect sphere? Or pretty
yeah,
close to it?
I mean, it's weathered away from time.
Yeah.
So the big debate is, the guy who's in favor of this being from a lost civilization. He's been studying stone ball phenomenon for 15 years, and no, it's not David Hatcher Childress. I wish it was.
Big balls.
But yeah, he's he's pretty certain, and I think this obviously comes with some bias, that this is, evidence of a lost civilization, of an advanced civilization that could create things like this. This is an age-old story we'll hopefully discuss on an episode eventually.
We will.
Talking about how like current machines can't create certain ancient artifacts like certain megaliths or crystal skulls or whatever it is. And there's no explanation. One of these anomaly residues. The other side of the argument that the more mainstream scientific community is arguing, this could be there's a term for it, basically where over long periods of time, sediment kind of forms in a globe-like sphere and just over time builds and builds and builds into bigger sizes. And there are examples of this we know are just stone. I think the argument here, the funny thing to me is they haven't tested the materials yet, and already the skeptics are saying this absolutely isn't. This is
Right,
this
they
is a
jump
natural
to-
formation, but they haven't. If it's made of iron, which is what it appears to be because of the red tint, there are natural explanations for the coloring of this thing.
Right.
But if you look at it, it looks
Iron.
pretty metal. But before the verdict's even in, they just assume that there's no way.
I'm looking like on the internet right now. And these balls are like all over the place.
Oh yeah. Have you not looked
Like, it's
into
not like-
Have you not looked into the stone balls at all? You should spend some time watching
No.
David Hatcher
Well,
Childress.
what are
Big
these?
stone balls.
It kind of looks like a acorn dropped off from a prehistoric megalith tree that was like 500 miles high.
Well, my
it
favorite theory, because this connects to a topic I want to get into at some point, because maybe Jeremy's crazy corner, because it's a little out there, but it's fascinating, is the idea that an ancient race of giants mined the earth at a long forgotten time. There's a great YouTube channel called New Earth that you guys should definitely check out.
Great channel.
I love it, man. Because there's a ton of information on there, and
But that's where you got your mountains are old giants theory.
Maybe they are. But the point is that these balls that you find around the world are also similar to what we create when we're doing refining. Like I think oil
right.
refining or something, they're byproducts. And one of the arguments, along with a bunch of other anecdotes and I would call it correlating evidence,
Yeah,
but it's,
that's all it is to
that
me.
there was this ancient mining. It comes to this idea that like we had these huge machines that carved out like major canyons and
Quarries.
hillsides and cliffs that now we just look at and we say, oh, this is a beautiful natural park. In reality, it was like it's leftover remnants of old mining operations. It's a fascinating topic. That's if you believe that maybe there were ancient civilizations in the past that were advanced that maybe destroyed themselves. It's kind of
Yeah, I
fascinating.
mean, the ancient giant theory would explain so many of the historical phenomenon we have, like megalithic structures that we can't recreate because they're so massive,
We still
so
can't
heavy.
lift them.
Yeah, I forget which, is it not Göbekli Tepe, but
Pumapunku?
a more recently discovered, or a site we discovered further in the past, but where if we had our largest modern cranes surrounding some of these stones that are used in this construction, they wouldn't be able to lift it.
Right.
So the argument is, giants or, ancient technology. Anyway, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was an interesting story. Mom sent it to me too, so shout out to Mom if she ever
Shout out
gets this
to
far into
Mom.
an
We
episode.
need some mom
Clips.
recordings. It'd be so
Remember
funny.
you tried to record her and she hid in the bathroom? Could you use
I
any of
know.
those clips?
I feel bad. She was not happy about that one.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. She doesn't sound like that.
She's a good sport. Or she will
No,
be.
she's actually not a good sport.
She's not a good sport yet.
Dad will do it, but he's not as fun.
We need that thoughts from
He's
Mom
fun and
segment.
goofy though.
Yeah, he'll say anything.
Yeah, but it's funner because she doesn't want to do it, I think, partly.
Yeah,
She does.
that's the compelling
Oh,
aspect.
it's like the Bam. Reminds me of was it Bam? Who was the guy from?
Oh, Bam Margera?
yeah, didn't he always used to
sort
mess
of.
with his mom?
And his
Oh,
dad.
dude, he tortured his mother, though.
Put
I
like
mean,
an alligator in the heuse they woke up to in the middle of the night.
What?
Yeah.
He'd like wake up, or he'd bring like, pots and pans and bang them in the
Oh,
mornings.
awful,
like,
man. God, what was that? C2Y2? I'd rather have an alligator than wake up to
CKY?
pots and
CKY. Y2K. Well, BDSM. All right.
Get in the weeds
moving
here.
on.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Yeah, you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break and then we'll come back and talk about cloud quakes.
Cloud Quakes. Sky sounds.
Sky sounds. Atmosphere trumpets.
All right.
Atmosphere trumpets.
See you guys in a bit.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
There's been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard in the atmosphere. People around the world and here at home have reported hearing some bizarre noises.
The low-frequency sounds that were being heard in the skies across Britain have now spread to major cities across the world.
People have been recording strange noises for some time now.
These sounds coming from the sky that sound like horns.
Those are telluric currents. CERN is generating telluric waves.
But no one's really sure what they're hearing.
Scientists conducted an experiment at the Large Hadron Collider to connect with a parallel universe outside of our own.
The concept of a parallel universe is a mathematical abstraction. It's a theoretical concept.
There are sounds that emanate from CERN. These are all parts of the rituals that have to be combined prior to the opening of this portal.
To imagine that we have the technology to build a portal into an alternative universe.
Scientists are calling it a global phenomenon as they still don't yet have an explanation for what is causing the sounds.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. Part 2, Skyquakes.
Skyquakes, guys.
Cloudquakes, Chris.
You guys ready for this?
Y'all ready for this? Let's do it. What's going on with Skyquakes? So what's this phenomenon?
Okay, so this is not a new phenomenon. This has been going on. Well, I think it really kind of broke news-wide in 2016, where because there was a phenomenon where they were having all these bangs occurring all over the planet. And supposedly, one of the videos I watched, they were all from January
2016.
2016, same day, like the 13th, which I don't know if I buy that. That's all this. Maybe it was, but I mean, it's hard to know when someone collects a bunch of posted things and then puts like date stamps on them. You don't know. But regardless, they're very fascinating. I think, like we talked about earlier, there's the booms. Like those are the skyquakes, the big explosion sounds that people have been hearing that are anomalous because
Those could be anything, though. It's kind of hard.
Right.
Just
Well,
'cause they're booms?
that's the kind of interesting thing here. When you're digging into it a little bit, the ones that are labeled the skyquakes are ones that they've had astronauts get in on the panels. They've had different geologists and say, okay, well, there wasn't an earthquake. Radar didn't pick up any explosions or smoke. No satellite imagery of that. There were no meteorites reported in the area. There were no tails or
Military craft making sonic booms.
No military craft making sonic booms with that audio register in the area. So, I mean, the ones that are kind of the genuine skyquakes are the ones that are, well, here's a little reading here. Radar scans and satellite imagery of the region don't show any large fires or smoke from an explosion, and the U.S. Geology Survey doesn't spot any signs of an earthquake on its seismic monitoring system. No aircraft with that sonic boom signature, and no meteor because no fireball seen in the sky. And so it's kind of these sort of combinations. And there's a lot of people who hear them who are familiar with a lot of these sorts of sounds, whether they be pilots who are used to hearing sonic booms or people who've witnessed meteors. I don't know how regular that is. But there's very unusual sounds.
Right.
And I think that it happened supposedly, at least all in this one day in that 2016. But they're still going on. You can still Google. I think there's a good video on 2018. But to me, the more interesting ones, the ones that are
Haunting.
Tearing, ripping, trumpeting,
apocryphal
sort of sounds in the sky. Those are, and I gathered a collection of those and I gathered the ones that all seem to have the same sound, and they're from all parts of the world: Norway, the U.S., Canada, Singapore, and we'll play some of those clips. Do you want to do that now, John?
Yeah, let's play a clip. Let's hear what we're talking about.
This one's from Norway in January in 2016. This one's from Norway.
Ja, jag ska die.
Sounds like Mothra.
Yeah, this reminds me of like Godzilla.
So dissonant.
Oh, that would be terrifying to hear.
Yeah, that is a bizarro,
Yeah, so
terrifying sound.
my first impression listening to some of these is it sounds like semi-trucks squealing brakes off in the distance, but the people who report hearing these say it fills the sky.
Yeah.
Like it is all-consuming sound.
Yeah, that one doesn't sound like semi-trucks, I don't think. It does sound like trumpet. To me, it still sounds like an air raid siren or something.
Frequency resonating.
It's meant to like warn. That's what it sounds like. Like something terrible is about to happen. You know what kind of remote sounds like too is, have you ever seen, not Resident Evil, but what's that? Silent Hill?
Oh,
You know,
not a
those-
long time, but yeah.
When those sirens go off and the demons come out, that's what it reminds me
Maybe
of.
that's what it is. Maybe it's CERN ripping open holes and
Yeah.
it's just heralding the interdimensional demon.
Freaky.
People have connected this is firing up the CERN Large Hadron Collider and their other instruments, certain test days, and connecting them
sounds like
with
this
these sounds
around
and
the world.
booms and even earthquakes. I think September 13th, 2015 was the Chile earthquake, which was timed with the firing up of CERN for one of their experiments.
Yeah, interesting. Could be coincidence. Could be demon portal.
It's Demon Portal.
Most assuredly.
It's funny because I was excited to do this topic, and we won't cover it forever today because we want to get into CERN. But I was excited to do this because I want to say I swear I heard this, but I like to be skeptical. But I was standing out in front of our shop about this time last year, and I heard this sound, and I was like, I know that sound. What is that? And it was extremely loud, same sort of sound, and it went on for maybe a minute straight. And we do have a highway, Route 21, that goes up around our little town. But so semi-trucks, but it seemed to fill the sky. It was the same kind of thing. And I just remember looking around, looking at other people who were kind of looking up at the sky. And it was brief, but strange enough where you stop.
Yeah.
And like, what is that?
I don't know. I still don't know how you get the semi-truck sound from it.
It's that grinding metallic part of it.
Yeah, that's definitely the best one, too. It's the freakiest sounding. I'll try the Dubai one. Dubai from January 16.
Dubai.
It's that fluttery, trumpety sound.
Let's try one from Canada.
Does this just sound like Godzilla coming through?
Yeah, dude, that's so weird.
That's that grinding, trumpety sound.
Yeah, you can hear
That one kind of sounds like, I don't know, dude. Maybe someone's just practicing trumpet really
and they
badly.
they last for minutes, right? Like long time.
Well, and so that last one.
That one almost sounded like a saw, like in the distance, like some like really heavy duty
really
saw.
loud. Yeah, and there's and that's the interesting thing is that
Saw the Nephilim.
a lot of these sounds, like it's not just people throwing up YouTube videos, sticking a microphone outside. Like, what is that? I mean, that's part of it. But most of these ones have been investigated by like local government communities.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what causes because they had hundreds of calls come in from the area saying, what is the sound? And they couldn't find the source. So that's what's interesting to me. And it is, another interesting thing is that sound, identical sound, and I'll drop in the show notes, is that one clip that I found where they're in the middle of nowhere, cross-country skiing, this older couple, and they stop and record it, and it sounds just like that last clip, but so loud that it drowns out their voices, and it sounds like it's coming from all above them in the forest. It sounds like almost animalistic, tearing through the fabric of reality.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyways, interesting stuff. I think that's pretty much all. I wanted to get to the CERN stuff, so I didn't want to go too much into it. But if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, just go to Wikipedia. They have a page of unidentified sounds, whether it's underwater or above the ground, and they all have cool little names like the ping.
The ping, yeah.
Underwater, and it's still being investigated by Canadian military.
No one knows where it's coming from.
Yeah, that'd be a whole fun episode, just auditory phenomenon.
I think it's organic, right? Like some giants. It's all Godzilla, man. It's all connected.
Godzilla, dude.
That's so crazy.
It's crazy,
What if Godzilla was based on the old gods coming up? It's definitely
Not
possible.
impossible.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps up what I have for that segment. I know CERN's pretty big, so I thought we would save most of the show.
If any of you out
for
there
CERN.
have witnessed a skyquake, write in or leave us a speak pipe and tell us how you almost peed your pants if it was that scary.
Send us a clip.
Let's do announcements real quick.
Yeah, let's do a quick. Shout out Patreon. Got a new Patreon subscriber.
Yes,
right, Chris?
Andrew. You know who you are.
Andrew, thank you.
I love Andrew. He's a good guy.
Can we get an air horn for Andrew?
air horn? Come on down.
Thanks,
Come on
Andrew.
down, Andrew. Appreciate it, buddy.
Collect your prize.
Yeah,
It's
brand new,
our admiration.
brand new patron episodes, which we'll be putting out every month now. Now that we're on track, now that we're adulting this podcast.
If you would
to
like
use that terrible term.
If you'd like some extra Believeful content, just go to patreon.com, or actually just go to our website and click on the Patreon button, because I don't think you can find us if
It's
you
hard
just
to
search
find
on
us
Patreon.
on Patreon.
They've hidden us because they don't like what we have to
I
say.
don't understand that. Why is that?
Okay, so when I was building the Patreon page, it said, "Do you have anything that's adult content?" And the examples they gave were like swearing, things like that. So I hit this not knowing it was going to hide our search, but then I look up other podcasts that are way dirtier than we are when it comes to language and topics.
Can't you just go back and you can't change that now?
Oh, yeah, you can put in a petition, but then they send you an email saying, it's going to take a long time for us to get to you.
Right. So long story short, go to our website, beliefhole.com, and click on the Patreon button if you want to sign up as a patron and get some extra Beliefhole content from us.
Absolutely, dude.
Maybe a little more uncensored, because sometimes we do censor ourselves a little bit.
Yeah,
unfettered.
Unfiltered. Why do you keep saying unfettered? What does that mean?
I like it.
You sure that's correct?
Yes.
Yeah, unfettered means unfiltered.
It means to have no feathers and to be naked to those that are looking upon you.
Unfeathered.
Unfeathered.
So anyways, if you want to become a patron and help support us, help us grow this show, we definitely appreciate it. We know it's not for everybody, but we put our hearts and souls into this, and we definitely appreciate the patrons that already contribute. And if you can't help us out monetarily, we would be really happy if you would go to things like iTunes, whatever you listen on, CastBox, YouTube, whatever service you have. If you go, leave us a good rating. If you want to leave a written review, that would be even better. We're trying to grow the show, and one of the biggest ways we can do that is jack up our ratings on iTunes to help spread what we're doing here.
Yeah, it makes us more suggestible to other people searching for podcasts, so it gives us more of a view, visibility.
Take a couple minutes out if you enjoy the show, and please go do that for us. We would be very, very grateful.
It really does help us get seen.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Other way you want to support the show, and if you guys don't think I should mention this now, but I think because we talked about we want to have this upcoming month for getting ready for the holidays, but some BH merch, some Beliefhole merch.
Oh yeah, we're gonna start that soon too.
Yeah, I'd like to get it up early December if possible. So
yeah, we should do that before Christmas.
Yeah, we'll be plowing through those.
Get some Beliefhole
designs. If you have any design ideas, feel free to write them in. We use designs from people who make suggestions, so feel free.
Yes. We love your ideas.
Give you a little shout out on the podcast. All right, well, are we ready to dive into this?
Let's take another quick break, and then we'll come back and start the next segment.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
Welcome to the first ever automated tour of CERN. As the ride begins, please keep your arms and legs inside the moving platform. Coming up on your right, you can see the world's biggest machine hard at work, CERN's Large Hadron Collider, smashing the fundamental elements of our universe at near light speed to create amazing reactions, the consequences of which we still aren't quite sure about. Coming up on your left, you'll notice Karanzin, the first elder god to enter our plane of existence through an unintentional dimensional CERN tear. Don't worry, folks. He's sweeter than he looks. Just please refrain from tapping on the glass. Now coming up on your right, if you look up toward the back of the containment area, you'll notice a large throbbing skin sac of some sort hanging from the rafters. CERN scientists still aren't quite sure what this is or how it got here. However, its arrival did correspond with the unexplained skinning of 13 of our workers last night. Since its appearance, our investigators seem to have developed an overwhelming urge to kneel before it and pay homage, so we've closed this section of the ride just in case. Again, at CERN, safety comes first. Lastly on our tour is the Gallery of Lost Souls and the Infinitely Employed. Since the first experiments began in 2010, we've lost a combination of 158 scientists, grounds crew, and baristas to various unfortunate accidents and unexplained disembowelments. However, due to the inexplicable nature of space-time that now surrounds the facility, Their spiritual energy is sadly unable to leave the boundaries of the grounds. But don't worry, we've put them to good use by utilizing their essence in our eco-friendly state-of-the-art power system. This room powers the entire facility. Don't worry, I can assure you, they are thrilled at the chance to continue their work. Just look at those disembodied smiles. Well, this concludes our tour for today. Thank you for visiting with us, and we hope you have learned why what we do here at CERN is not only completely safe, but also necessary. As you exit past the gift shop, make sure to follow the red line of goat's blood marked on the floor, so we can verify your dimensional-specific identities before you leave. We want to make sure that the you that started this tour is the same you that leaves the tour. Don't forget to grab a CERN koozie or keychain from the gift shop on the way out, and have a pleasant day.
And we're back.
And we're back. Welcome back, guys.
That break was yummy in my tummy.
Yummy in the tummy.
Ding dong.
All right, Jerry, ready to open up a dimensional portal?
Let's do it. Let's get into CERN, guys.
CERN it up.
CERN it up. All right, guys. So,
why don't you give us a little info on what CERN is?
Yeah. I'll just do a quick breakdown of CERN. I want to get through really quick because it's not fun, but it's this.
Well, you need it. It's interesting.
We need a little background of what CERN is.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple things about CERN. So for those of you who don't know what CERN is, it's the world's biggest machine. It costs something like $9 billion. It's a complex that is buried about 575 feet underground, and it straddles the border of France and Switzerland.
Isn't it like 17 miles in circumference or something? It's huge.
Yeah, it's 17 miles.
What?
Circuit ring, yeah. And it kind of overlaps the border between.
That's crazy. Are you serious?
Yeah.
17 miles in circumference?
They need that much space to collide the subatomic particles at such high speeds.
Is the office that big, or is like the building that big? Or that's the tunnel. Oh, that makes sense.
But along the tunnel are different offices and
complexes.
Nodes, for observing the effects of the studies. So it's this giant. It's in Geneva, Switzerland, like I said, on the border of France and Switzerland. And they say that this is what's interesting is, I thought they would bury it in case there's a catastrophe that could occur with the collision of these particles or whatever, or for the heat because they're creating such high temperatures. But apparently they according to CERN, what I read online is that they buried it to preserve the natural aesthetics of the area.
Oh, well, that's good.
Which is a sweet thought. But it was just a weird, that's really why. That might be to shy away from the alarmism of, they actually could create a black hole or a giant explosion.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to do it in secret. Anything that's more clandestine.
Yeah.
Well, I could see them, what's that? What is this giant ring? I mean, it looks like something out of, like a Japanese anime, like Evangelion or something. This giant machine that's 17 miles around that's slamming subatomic particles at faster than light speed.
Near light speed.
I guess
I don't think they've gotten to light speed yet.
Right, yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Einstein would shit his pants.
Okay, so they use these gigantic complex of machines to collide subatomic particles, hadrons, with a Large Hadron Collider, which an example of that would be like a proton, is one example of a hadron, at near light speed. And they do it because they say, this is from their website, the process gives us clues about the particles and how they interact, and provides insight into the fundamental laws of nature. So this is like breaking down the very fundamental building blocks of existence, essentially.
Right. I think isn't their stated purpose so that they can, examine basically the building blocks of the universe and kind of get a window into what the universe looked like in prehistory.
How particles are put together, the gluons and things that hold the very existence itself together, which is what's kind of scary when you're blowing that stuff apart.
Right.
To see what happens when we've never done it before. So there are scientists warning. So before I jump to the warnings, I'm gonna break down. Actually, I'll give the warnings real quick first. These are warnings from other scientists that are kind of interesting.
Their fears.
And this doesn't get into the conspiracy part, but it's interesting enough to note because it's kind of freaky. So Stephen Hawking warned the God particle found by CERN could destroy the universe. Quote.
Oh, that's all.
The Higgs boson. Hawking wrote in the preface to a book, Starmus, a collection of lectures by scientists. The Higgs boson could become unstable at very high energy levels and have the potential to trigger a, quote, catastrophic vacuum decay, which could cause space and time to collapse. And we would not have any warnings to the dangers. So that's a little freaky. And the concern was so large to certain scientists around the world. There was a German professor from the University of Tübingen. His name is Otto Rossler. And in 2008, when they were first firing up the CERN engines, he actually sued. He filed a lawsuit against CERN with the European Court of Human Rights on the grounds that the facility could trigger a mini black hole that could get out of control and annihilate the planet.
Right. Did he work there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I've heard that as one of the concerns by some of the scientific community, that they could create mini black holes that could drop into the core of the planet and eat it from the inside.
Swiss cheese it, right? Isn't that the idea of a black hole?
Cool.
Or maybe it's antimatter.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Let me just read this real quick from an article that is just creepy. It's just a little blurb, but it just kind of restates what you just said.
What's this
Mrs.
from?
Robbins, this is from an article that says CERN plans to use the particle collider as a stargate.
Probably from is it CNBC?
I just ran into this one line, and it just says, Mr. Robinson warned that if CERN keeps destroying matter at that rate, the barriers and limitations set in place by physical matter in our world may instantly vanish, and we may find ourselves lost in the non-physical universes that are all around us.
Well, and that's what's crazy, because I was going to...
It sort of feels sometimes like what Chris was saying. Like I do feel like there's this
loss of reality, separation.
Yeah.
I started feeling it in 2000. What was it? It was the New Year's Day, 2012. No, I think 2011.
Okay.
Or 2010. Anyway, but yeah, I went through like a 4-month period of feeling like I was watching my reality from a third person. It was so depressing.
You couldn't get back into your reality.
Yeah, it was probably like a dissociative break, but I just felt like I was dreaming for like 3 months, and it was terrifying. It was the first time I ever could kind of empathize with why someone would kill themselves.
Yeah, there was a lot of rubbing Chris's back and telling him it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
A lot of late nights where I had to hold Chris's
It didn't
hand.
help. Anyway,
It didn't help. But that's interesting. That's
probably just sensitive to CERN's
that occurred after
manipulations.
CERN started firing up its tests, so maybe.
Did it?
Yeah. Well, they started firing up in 2008.
Those dicks.
I've definitely felt sort of a disassociative feeling for a long time. I feel like since technology started really taking off, that there's this feeling that we're just sort of disconnected compared to, when we just had television, where it just things felt more grounded back then. It feels very airy-fairy sometimes.
Yeah,
Right.
it's tricky, I think, for us, at least for me, it seems like this, where, it's hard to know. To me, it seems like this increase in screen time, this connectedness, all this crazy jump we've had in our lifetime, which I think is, you could argue, is one of the most significant quick jumps in technology in history. So it's hard for me to know is how much of
it is the most, without a doubt.
Right. So it's hard for me to know how much of this change in my perception of reality and this disconnection and this kind of growing pace in life, how much of that is part of growing older and how much of it is the technological speed up, because we are in a rare generation where we used payphones and pagers and then, became young men and had access to 56K modem, high-speed Wi-Fi in college. Like it was such a fast smartphones in, our young early 20s. Such a radical shift.
We're using payphones and now we're in virtual reality pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big jump. But back to CERN.
Sorry.
So what's interesting is, like you said, like you guys are noticing these things changing recently, and it's kind of funny that the CERN fired up, and now that's the theory with the Mandela Effect, which we're not going to get into in this episode.
I want to get into it.
We'll get into that episode because the Mandela Effect, for those who don't know, essentially believe that there are things happening in this reality that they remember differently because they're from another dimension or reality that has collided, and now they're living out a different sequence, and so they remember things differently, like Mandela supposedly having died in prison.
Quick example, we'll move on, but quick example, like if you remember the line from the Disney movie, if you remember it being mirror, mirror on the wall, in this reality you are incorrect, it is magic mirror on the wall. That's just one example.
And Star Wars,
Luke, I'm your father. That's not the line in this reality. It's, no, I am your father.
Yeah.
So it's interesting stuff, and you can argue whether it's misremembering or cultural changes. People parodied things and it was just misremembered. But anyway, another episode, but fascinating topic.
But yeah, so that kind of those occurrences people claim started after CERN fired up its engines.
Yeah.
So its tunnel of pain and
Maybe
pleasure.
it's after they made the internet, everybody connected.
Okay, so I'm going to give you this. I did a quick jotting this morning. It's a little rough, but it's the basic CERN conspiracy using my own words as far as I understand it. Using the largest, most powerful and sophisticated particle physics laboratory to collide the fundamental elements of our universe at unprecedented speeds in an attempt to rip open a hole in space-time and create a portal or window to another dimension or Hellgate, either purely for exploration or to summon forth the old gods or the gods of old, perhaps in an attempt to become gods themselves, which echo in scientific history, i.e. Babylon working, which is which I'm going to touch on later if we have time, which is an experiment that Jack Parsons, one of the fathers of NASA, JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, some people refer to as Jack Parsons Laboratory. He was with L. Ron Hubbard, the
creator of Scientology.
Creator of Scientology. And this is Wikipedia, Babylon working. He was an occultist and one of the fathers of modern rocketry. He was with L. Ron Hubbard, the father of Scientology, in the Mojave Desert, trying to summon the goddess Babylon with the guidance of Aleister Crowley. And I'll get into that later, but it ties into this idea of like basically the mad scientist idea where there are people that get to such high levels and they're interested in the occult, and science at the highest level sometimes is guided by these occult ideas. And that could lead to the attempts, like supposedly the attempt at CERN to open a doorway. And on that note,
could it also be that there's scientists that watched a lot of Sliders in the 90s and want to be like a Jerry O'Connell, hero,
scientists,
and just slide into different realities where stoplights are green for stop and red for go?
It could be, Chris. Could be. That's a sweet thought. But I think it's for the demons to come through.
Okay, maybe.
They want to feed off their energy. Yeah, who knows? But this is the theory. Now we have a quote from Sergio Bertolucci, the former director for research and scientific computing of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. But he worked at CERN, and he was quoted as saying that the super collider could open otherworldly doors to another dimension for, quote, a very tiny lapse in time, mere fractions of a second. However, that may be just enough time, quote, to peer into this open door, either by getting something out of it or sending something through.
This is somebody at CERN that said this?
Yeah, this was Sergio Bertolucci, if I'm saying that right, Director of Research and Scientific Computing. So that's
at CERN.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
That's crazy.
And then other leading scientists at CERN have been quoted as saying they may discover previously unimagined scientific phenomena or unknown unknowns, for instance, quote, an extra dimension.
Right.
And of course, they would be studying other dimensions. That's kind of an idea. But then if you think of it as being like another reality, an alternate dimension.
Yeah, well, to me, it seems like it could easily be we open up one of these portals or one of these dimensional gateways, and all of a sudden, like, the shadow people that are so clandestine in our reality are all of a sudden, like, going to work, brushing their teeth. We're like, hey, right. You were in my bedroom closet last night,
Yeah, well, some have come out and talked about how, like, there might be conscious things that come through. One example they gave was a being of light. Sentient light.
Scientists were hypothesizing this at CERN?
Weird. Yes, that's what I heard from Anthony Patch and Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero. But yeah, so the idea that these sentient light could come through this portal when it opens briefly into another dimension, or electromagnetic clouds that might be sentient that could come through. Where would they go? I mean, these
sounds like a bad old Star Trek episode.
It sounds like an entity that might need a body, right? It might need to go into someone to inhabit.
Oh yeah,
this world.
What was that character in Ghostbusters? Gozer.
Yeah, right.
Show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly. Oh, great Ghostbusters drop.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Gozer is a freaky, like those dogs in that movie. Oh my God, they're so terrifying.
Yeah, well, okay, so
Hellhounds.
Yeah, weren't they? Didn't they? One was like the gatekeeper, and one was the.
One possessed Sigourney Weaver, and that was the
Keymaster, and there was the gatekeeper possessed Rick Moranis from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was that kind of dopey guy.
Why am I dripping?
Such a good movie.
Oh, it's a different guy.
Yeah. Anyway, so CERN could open up a Ghostbusters portal.
Okay, so now let's get into like some of the potential occult connection and the evidence.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so
now John's away.
Yeah,
as soon as you say occult.
So I'm gonna just quickly touch on the logo. I don't want to get too much into the logo, but this is kind of one of the top things people mention. It does have 666 in the logo.
If you look at it a certain way, yeah.
Which is, the number of the beast, right? The mark of the beast in the Bible and Aleister Crowley's teachings, right? So that's kind of compelling.
And Sharon Needles' video.
Yes, and Sarah Needles?
Is it Sharon Needles?
Oh, yes.
I haven't seen
Please
that
don't
yet.
Google that.
Is it great?
No, you should. You should Google Sharon Needles 666.
This is where the entertainment industry is heading.
Oh, I get it.
It's
Sharon
so
Needles.
bad,
Play on
words.
words.
I get that. I didn't get that before. Sharon Needles plug.
I didn't either. No, I just got
That's
it.
dirty and dark.
That is an unintentional plug. Yeah, it's just a really creepy music video. It's all about Anton LaVey, and I feel like Anton LaVey would probably be rolling his eyes because it's.
I'm sure
it's such a badly
It's so cheesy,
done.
dude. It's like Britney Spears, that sort of feel. But
they got this guy dressed up like Anton
worship.
LaVey, and they're like got his arm around him and like dancing, and it's just.
Anton LaVey didn't even believe.
They make him sound like a DJ in the song because it was like. Let the music play, Anton LaVey.
Didn't he make it? Did he take the idea of Aleister Crowley and make it more of like there's not really a devil. It's more of like a sort of an anti culture.
That's for another episode.
That's what they say, though. That's the whole point. It's like, it doesn't mean anything, but that's just such bullshit.
There's
dude.
different ways to read that.
I don't think that they mean that at all when they say that stuff. It's just like, it's like believing the devil when he tells you a lie. He's like, oh yeah, of course I'm not doing anything bad. Why would I lie to you?
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, Aleister Crowley was someone who was like open about a lot of the darker stuff.
Well, I think there are different sects in Satanism,
Right.
like Anton LaVey's.
Oh, I'm sure. And what I meant was like, it's not to say that there aren't devil worshipping, sacrificing cults in different places. What I meant is like the overall LaVey Satanist outspoken movement is not one that supposedly
Purportedly
believes in Satan.
the biblical Satan.
Well, and I think it doesn't matter if they believe in it or not. Like if they say they don't, they're participating in things that are pushing that forward. And they can say whatever they want, but I mean, they're making a conscious decision to just support something that is, like, in my mind, like, there is no question anymore that there is evil on this planet. And it's pretty powerful at this point.
Yeah.
And go ahead. We can get back to the CERN thing.
Yeah. I was just going to say that'll be another episode for sure, because we could go into that stuff for a while.
Yeah, we should do one on that for sure. Break things down more.
Okay, now the other interesting thing that people point to with the CERN connection is the Shiva statue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so anyone who's Googled CERN or Shiva or CERN ritual, you're going to get this video, which was a mock sacrifice, or was supposedly a real sacrifice.
Dude, that CERN logo definitely has 666 in it. 666
Yeah,
in it.
yeah, I know. I just mean like a lot of those logos you can be like, oh yeah, if you take those apart and separate them, like the Disney signature, Walt
Just
Disney.
another coincidence. It's
Yeah,
just
but I
like,
mean,
how many can you have?
again,
where it
correlation
just-
does not equal causation. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but when you have a million correlations, then it does start to.
Well, yeah,
have,
that's
like,
a million
some
there.
stuff.
There's a lot of connections. That's
With
the whole
everything
point.
that we talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Keep going.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But you're right, John. Check out the CERN logo and tell me if you guys see 666 in it, because it is. I mean,
yeah, you could add
that's
to
pretty much
you
all
could
there
add it
is.
to the list of like coincidences that could equal definitely like some crazy stuff. I mean, with all the occult stuff you're getting into with
That's
this,
the whole point of this episode.
I know.
Is putting these.
Okay, keep connecting. I'm listening.
Okay, I'm going to connect the next dot.
ahead.
So Shiva. So there's a Shiva statue at CERN. It was given to CERN by the government of India. And so, yeah, like I said, if you guys Google this, you're going to see ritualistic sacrifice supposedly happening in front of CERN. And this has been like, it does. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, this is fake. You know, like it's basically a bunch of robed figures wearing Converse shoes around a woman in white who walks out.
Converse shoes.
I
Can you
think
see it from-
so. I thought that's
Pretty dark out there.
pretty far
maybe
away.
it is. But they walk around a woman in white, and then one proceeds to stab her in the chest. And someone pointed out it looks pretty real because when it pulls the knife out, you can actually see her clothing get kind of hooked on the knife as it comes out. But the person filming it, you can see the reflection. And
From a high up window.
right, also looks like they're wearing kind of a black robe, and they're like, oh fuck, oh no, they did it, you know. And
Do
then
they
like,
sound genuine or do they sound like
I mean,
they're-
he sounded scared, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to tell. And why would you be like? Because there's only like 8 people doing this ritual, and then this one person's missing, and he's filming it, and he's like, well, maybe he didn't think they were actually going to do it, and they did it.
Here's the argument against even if it is faked, how do you get in CERN and perform a ritual in the middle? Like, that place has to be so top secret.
Yeah, the
and
security.
guarded. You might as well do it in the middle of like Roswell, the base is there. It's like whoever is involved in that has to be part of CERN. Like,
Well, yeah. So people that are on the grounds of CERN, there's a lot of young scientists that are invited there all the time.
Right.
And so that was kind of the argument that this was a bunch of young scientists, but still, like, where's security? They're doing a mock sacrifice.
Why would they do that anyways? Like, just as a hoax? You think that's the reason? Like just as a hoax? Like scientists? You think I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
My
but
feeling is that they were kids. I mean, the guy in the video sounds like a young guy, and it sounds like that if it was a hoax, which it sounds kind of probably like it is, which is just weird in the first place.
Right.
That they're doing it, but
I think the argument there is that, well, if that side of the argument is saying, you know, in that point in time, there was a lot of rumors and conspiracies going around about the occult nature of CERN, especially with that Shiva statue. So the argument is, well, we're very familiar with this stuff. So as a lark, they all get in front of this right in front of that same statue that everybody's talking about online, being this, you know, destroyer of worlds in the middle of CERN, the statue of this goddess or god.
right.
You
Okay,
know,
so that's what I was going.
They're still doing the ritual though, which is interesting. Regardless if it's fake or not, they're still going through some sort of ritualistic activity where they're mock sacrificing.
Yeah, it's
someone.
a weird thing to plan to get robes, even as a lark, to plan to get robes and all gather out, and then like because if you're doing
it's involved for sure.
Yeah, if you're doing it in the middle of the night, and would you be worried about maybe getting in trouble,
Yeah,
getting arrested, getting kicked out of
I'm sure
CERN.
they have video cameras everywhere in that place. I mean,
I'm sure it's an
that
honor to get invited to CERN. You would surprised that you would get that many young scientists.
It's the
together
brightest minds
to
from around
risk that.
22 member countries involved in CERN. It's the brightest minds that are pulled there. It's bizarre. But check that out, guys. Tell us what you think if you think
India
it's
was
real
pretty
or not.
pissed about that.
Leave us your thoughts in a comment below.
Indian Nuclear Commission was pretty mad.
Right, India wasn't too happy about that. So, anyways, what's interesting alone with the Shiva statue, beyond this crazy ritual that may or may not have been a hoax, was the fact that the statue of Shiva is there at all. I mean, India is heavily connected with; they're one of the member states involved in CERN. But it's interesting. This is from there's a plaque on this statue that was given to them. It was like June of 2004, I think, when they unveiled the statue, and the plaque explains its significance. It reads, "In our time, physicists have used the most advanced technology to portray the patterns of the cosmic dance. The metaphor of the cosmic dance thus unifies ancient mythology, religious art, and modern physics." And then a little later it says, this is from another piece, "According to quantum field theory, the dance of creation and destruction is the basis of the very existence of matter. Modern physics has thus revealed that every subatomic particle not only performs an energy dance, like Shiva, the god of destruction and rebirth, but also is an energy dance, a pulsating process of creation and destruction. For the modern physicist, then, Shiva's dance is the dance of subatomic matter, the basis of all existence and of all natural phenomena." So yeah, Shiva is the god of destruction,
right,
and creation.
So at the end of the dance, is it like the destruction of the universe?
Well, and then it's reborn, just like what would happen if we had some sort of...
created some sort of Big Bang.
Right. And so what's bizarre, people have pointed to the Atlas detector, which is supposed to detect the results of some of these collisions that are happening. The Atlas detector looks oddly similar. Like when you break it apart, you can see pieces of the Atlas detector that look similar to the Shiva statue with the rings around Shiva, this ancient design of the statue. And on that statue, the nodes on there are called the flames of destruction, surrounded by the arc of destruction.
Yeah, she's
and it looks a lot
basically
like
in a big hula hoop, right?
Right, and it looks like the collider. I mean, it looks like the Atlas detector.
Yeah.
Like it has these rings and these nodes and flames, and maybe that's all, circumstantial, but it's just bizarre that's their kind of their corporate mascot, which is just odd.
Well, yeah, that's when I first heard that Shiva connection. I thought that was so bizarre, even before I knew about the CERN conspiracy.
Right.
Just because it reminded me of that Oppenheimer quote after he created the atomic bomb.
And that's from, I think that is Shiva saying it, but it's from the Bhagavad Gita, I'm pronouncing that wrong, where he says, I have become death, destroyer of worlds.
Right.
Yeah, Oppenheimer, yeah. That's a pretty dark quote, but...
So let's put that god right in the middle of the
Large
Hadron Collider.
Where we're smashing fundamental... Yeah, to recreate the Big Bang. Like
it just reminds me, there is so much occult stuff tied with CERN. It just reminds me of, like, if it's not some crazy conspiracy, you're really asking for that. It reminds me of, like, the Denver airport, where there's just so much occult paraphernalia.
It just feels like a ritual. Like, I mean, it feels like these are things to put there potentially to create that kind of, like, energy of, like, we're summoning something.
Have you seen the... just pictures of a lot of this stuff, like inside the technology, what it actually looks
incredible.
like.
It looks amazing.
It does look amazing, but there's something very, like, dark about it to me. Like, I can't put my finger on it, but looking at it, it does feel very, like, interdimensional. And it reminds me of the movie...
Event Horizon?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, you see Sam Neill with his, like, skin sack jumping off the railing. But
it's like it's not hell, but it has, like, that energy. It's, like, beautiful in its own way, but it also has this dark feel to it. It
definitely looks like a doorway, or like something that would create. It reminds you of that. Like, it reminds you of a Stargate.
Well,
almost,
when you guys said, I think John, you said something earlier that reminded me of CERN put out this promotional video. It was an opera and dance that they had written called Symmetry, and people point to that there is similarities with Shiva's Dance of Destruction in it. And that's just a bizarre. Oh, that's what you're saying, is that that time becomes unglued, and that there was scientists concerned that they would be pulled into, like, basically a different reality where time changes. In this video, this Symmetry video they put out, they're dancing like ballet and stuff. And you just watch the trailer online. Google CERN Symmetry.
It's basically like a worker dancing.
Yeah, there's a worker, and he's got his construction hat on, and he's a scientist there. And all of a sudden, he looks like terrified, and then he starts to shift out of this dimension and falls through this kind of, like, portal. And then all of a sudden he's, like, frozen and out in this sandy desert, surrounded by a ring in the sand. And then there's a figure all in black walking slowly around him. And then it flashes back where it's kind of like coaxing him and touching his face.
Weird.
It's like the pulling apart of
In the
dimensions.
desert?
And his watch starts spinning when he's in the CERN facility, and they disconnect with our dimension. And they're putting this out as like the beautiful dance of symmetry. It's CERN. It's just a bizarre thing to have at like, you know, it definitely feels ritualistic and yeah, it's just crazy. But
he's just a sliding man. He's just a slider.
So from the CERN website, the general purpose of the ATLAS detector of the Large Hadron Collider is to investigate a wide range of physics, from the search of the Higgs boson, the God particle, to discovering extra dimensions and dark matter.
Wow, they openly state that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Searching for extra dimensions?
Yeah.
How dangerous. Imagine being one of those guys.
They even say dark matter.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, they want to work with dark matter. They want to contain it, and then
I know dark matter is like not, you know,
as
evil,
spooky as it sounds.
It does have a weird connotation to it. Just the fact that it's called dark matter is like, it sounds like a weird, you know.
Yeah, I think dark matter
symbolism.
is what makes up like 90% of the universe. It's all, everything that's not the stuff we see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say.
No, I know
that's
that.
another thing too. Is all these discoveries are they're not falsifiable, because CERN is the only one that can witness this. Right? There's no other laboratories or science. So like,
I'm sure they give out data.
They
and stuff,
they predict that they're going to find the Higgs boson, and then they find the Higgs boson. They predict all this phenomena or elements that they're discovering, and then they find them, which is nice and convenient. But there's also no way to falsify what they're actually working on, because there's no other place that can actually perform these tests.
We're also saying that, like, just because people work at CERN doesn't mean they're involved in any sort of nefarious
I don't think that at all. No,
usually that's not how it works. It's sort of that compartmentalization. If there is nefarious stuff going on, or there are some of these missions are not exactly what they're saying. It's not just because, you know, the people that all work there know what's going on.
Well,
it's
look at the compartmentalization of the atom bomb. You know, with Oppenheimer, when they were trying to develop nuclear weapons, right, or atomic weapons, that was so
the Manhattan Project.
It was the largest project to date. You know, you had thousands and thousands of people working on this. None of them knew what the other was doing. The right hand didn't know what the left was doing.
No one knew what the end result was. That's one of the things that always bugs me when people say, like, how can you have a conspiracy with that many people?
Right,
and sometimes they'll be referring
exactly.
to sometimes they'll be referring to the JFK assassination. They'll be like, how can you have a conspiracy with that many people? It's like, do you look at the Manhattan Project? There were, I think, thousands, at least, if not many hundreds, of scientists that were compartmentalized working on that project. You don't know what you're creating if you're just turning a cog.
Right. Okay, so let me get to this last occult specific connection with CERN, and then I want to jump to this crazy ritual at the Goddard Tunnel, which is connected to CERN, or nearby to CERN. And it's another just bizarre thing happening around the same time, 2016, that a lot of the tests at CERN were happening. So the final note I'm going to touch on with the specific occult connections with CERN is the geographical location. Okay, so this comes from an RT article, but I Wikipedia'd it, and it checks out factually. So, all right, the town in France where CERN is partially situated is called St. Genus Pauli. The name Pauli comes from the Latin Pauliacum, and it is believed that in Roman times a temple existed in honor of Apollo, and the people who lived there believed that it was a gateway to the underworld. It is interesting to note that CERN is built on the same spot. So the occult connection with the place they chose to build CERN in the 50s
is an ancient portal to the underworld.
Yeah, it was a temple to
in myth and lore. Yeah, that's crazy.
And then the religious connection, like religious scholars will note, and religious conspiracy theorists will note that makes reference to Apollyon, Apolliacum, which is from the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 1 through 2 and 11. It says, "To him was given the key of the bottomless pit," aka CERN's portals, and he opened the bottomless pit, and they had a kind over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue, where they had the Apollyon, the town, in the Greek tongue, his name is Apollyon. And the name is Apolliacum of the town there.
In Greek, so this place is named after that place in Greece, because this place is in Switzerland, right?
Well, yeah, but it was named
after that. It's a namesake.
It was just the Greek. Well, it used to be controlled by Rome, the town.
Switzerland?
Yeah. It was part of the Roman Empire. I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Wikipedia.
Should we play the clip of the sounds that it makes?
Oh yeah, go ahead. So this is the inside the. And I was thinking if you pitch shifted this down real low, I wonder if it would connect to the sky quakes, because they were timed.
Like if it's the sound reverbing in the sky somehow.
We can do it live.
Yeah,
real
try
time.
it. Try it.
Let's play the original first, though.
Okay.
Ooh. Oh, weird.
Wow.
Should I pitch it down and see what it sounds like?
Yeah. Oh, that's not pitched down?
No.
No, that's just the straight.
That reminds me of it, though, right
that
there.
last
when
part
it's lower.
sounds like
reminds
that.
me of let's see if I can do that pitch down now.
I mean, I guess if you had that loud and at a distance,
Yeah.
So it's probably the sound of
I'm going to scroll to the part that is the most interesting and pitch it way down, see what it sounds like. Ready?
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of that. Remember in The Gate, we referenced the movie before where they're playing the record backward. It reminds me of like a chanting kind of sound, I mean,
That's exactly what the first clip sounds like. Very much like some sort of record being played backwards.
And, personally, I think it's interesting though, but I don't think that really has.
Maybe
this is the idea.
The idea is that the sounds aren't actually coming from the sky, but they're bouncing off the ionosphere or other layers in our atmosphere and coming back down to us.
Yeah.
And that the gigantic amount of energy and magnetism used in these tests are amplifying the sound and contorting them, and that's what we're hearing back.
I can see that.
So that's definitely a
Why would they be
potential tie-in.
happening all over the world, though?
Well, there are other installations, I believe, of different colliders. Although some might be secret.
I mean, you think about it, like they're messing with the very nature of reality potentially.
that's
So
true.
who knows why it's echoing around the entire
Pockets of
world?
sound in different, dimensional.
Well, it's definitely
hotspots.
possible if they are manipulating time and matter and space.
They're doing it, guys. I'm telling you, it's
They're
real.
doing it.
It's all real.
Game over, man. It's all real.
Okay, so all right, now I want to jump to the next part, John.
So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. This is just a warning to all the people that
don't use drugs.
listen to our show, because it might sound like we are using drugs sometimes when
Right.
we talk about this stuff.
Or the scientists at CERN. Who knows what they're
true.
on?
PCP.
Maybe if we took some hallucinogenic drugs, we would learn the answers.
We can. Well, that's a whole other episode because there's
Yeah.
some interesting connections with
Get on that whole-
psychotropics and seeing the foundation of reality, which I want to get into in another
Psychedelics.
episode. Okay, so John, do you got that other clip? Because I want to set up
I
this.
do.
Okay, this is from the Goddard Tunnel opening ceremony in 2016.
Okay, and real quick, how does that connect? Does it connect to CERN? It's nearby, at least,
Yeah, I'm going to say, well, it's in Switzerland. It's this gigantic, another tunnel that they're digging underground, like the tunnel for CERN. It was like the largest, most ambitious project that they've done, and to put in this train system essentially. But just the ritual is so bizarre. It just reminds me of this connections. It's happening at the same time CERN's doing their tests, and some of the rituals that tie in and connect, and the visuals in this ritual.
Yeah, you guys do check this out.
Connect with the portal stuff with CERN and the visuals in their videos, and it's just so weird.
We will link this video for sure, because this is creepy.
You have to watch this, man. It's just insane. Okay, yeah, go ahead and I'll just read over it, so I won't be just hearing it. Okay, so yeah, in this scene, okay.
Wow.
All right, yeah, so you had. It's hard to explain without seeing it. So right before this, you had. I'll skip to this part. So right now you have this goat man walking around screaming, surrounded by all these figures, ghostly figures in white, and he's running around like screaming and wailing.
And didn't these figures come through a portal?
They all came through a portal on this giant digital screen behind them, where these workers had fallen off this rock cliff. Like these dancers dressed up as workers, fallen and died, gone through this portal, this gateway, and then these white souls, floating entities came down, and now they're all screaming around this goat man while he walks around trying to impregnate them. Which is
very normal for
bizarre,
a tunnel
right?
opening.
Okay, so and then a goat-headed man, the guy who's walking around, his face appears on the massive screen behind them, where a portal appears, and his face is like evil rage and hatred. And while his face is on the screen, these large scarabs descend, which is weird. These Egyptian beetles are dancing and descending down. After which he grabs
ceremony. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm stopping. Keep going.
It's okay. So after that, after this goat man, this Cernunnos creature, Baphomet-looking thing, is like has evil hatred just growling on the screen while they're all wailing. After this, he grabs a woman in white and seduces her. Then appears the woman in the red dress, who's eventually impregnated by this goat man. He gets her from behind, crawls up under her dress, and then she gives birth to a daughter.
Now, this is, first of all, this is all bizarre. The whole ritual dance ceremony, opening ceremony is
not
just
your
bizarre.
Thanksgiving Day parade.
Right, no.
Sure.
But
Where is this again? And can you explain it quickly what exactly this is? Like, you know who's involved? This is in a tunnel?
Yeah, so basically, in this scene, this is out. So the ceremony started in the end, inside the tunnel.
And this is in Switzerland,
Yeah,
right?
you have these dignitaries on each side filled with on these bleachers.
What is a dignitary?
Like, you know, officials from all the member states, like all the European
So these
states
are
that
official people that are involved in this sort of.
I guess this isn't CERN. Yeah, it's for this tunnel opening in Switzerland. So you have all these Swiss officials.
This is a tunnel opening.
Right, and you have all these Swiss officials, people wearing, dressed to their Sunday best, and they're all watching this bizarre dance to commemorate the opening of this tunnel. And the whole ritual is just bizarre. You can find videos of it online, but what's super bizarre. So yeah, you have the scene that we took from there was when they're outside the tunnel at the end, and you have all these dignitaries watching on either side, and it looks like it would be like a holiday parade or something, but instead you have like these creatures coming out of this gate, this portal that comes on the screen, and they're like wailing and crying, and these weird things jumping up and down, like these things that were just created from this other dimension, and this Baphomet looking thing, this Cernunos goat man running around impregnating people. And so what's weird about this is just part of it. Okay, this is just part of this
there's a lot of crazy
ritual
stuff in there.
But
why? Where do these ideas come from? Like this occult stuff that's going on in our world is just, it's so bizarre, and it just seems to it's almost like a religious ceremony except for the other side. Like it's like this stuff is planned. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this whole
rampant and pervasive.
This part of it's pervasive, it's rampant. So this whole part of the ceremony reminds me a lot of, like, you see the ritualistic kind of touchstones we see in even like pop culture and award ceremonies and stuff that we won't get into now, but it seems like this stuff is touching down from like the highest sophisticated forms of occult in like elite society with these grand tunnel openings with dignitaries and these dances at CERN and stuff, and then leaks down into popular culture. But what it connects with to me is when this creature, this goat-headed man, is walking around with just this evil and wailing, and he's impregnating. What I found interesting was he impregnates this woman in red. Okay, so the woman in red harkens back to an occult idea from Aleister Crowley, which is the Scarlet Woman, or the Whore of Babylon, which is a crazy connection because the Whore of Babylon is supposed to give birth to a daughter, the daughter of Babylon, right?
And that's what happens in that ceremony.
And that's what happens in the ceremony. You know, this beast, right? The beast, the goat, whatever, takes this, woman in red from behind, impregnates her, and she gives birth to a daughter in the ceremony. What does this have to do with the tunnel opening? It's obviously some sort of, pagan, if not occult ceremony. And it's funny because you Google it. I Google like, who is the goat-headed man? What does this represent? And I found on BBC that all they said was, oh, this is this pays homage to the Iba, or whatever it is, the goat that exists in the
area.
Yeah, the mountains of the Alps. Oh, okay.
So why is it having sex with women and
impregnating women? It's just so bizarre, man. So yeah, like that ties in with the Babylon working that I talked about earlier with Jack Parsons in the desert, where what he was. This is how crazy it is, man. This is how it all ties in. So, and with the experiment and the summoning in the desert with Jack Parsons, one of the heads of NASA, right? Elite science, with L. Ron Hubbard, who is his magical partner. This is from Wikipedia and Babylon Working. The Babylon Working was a series of magical ceremonies or rituals performed from January to March 1946 by pioneer rocket fuel scientist and occultist Jack Parsons and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. The ritual was designed to manifest in an individual incarnation of the archetypal divine feminine called Babylon. The project was based on the ideas of Aleister Crowley's work, who counseled Parsons during his rituals. That was what's interesting. When Parsons declared that the first of the series of rituals was complete and successful, he almost immediately met Marjorie Cameron, who would eventually be his wife, in his home, and regarded her as the elemental that he and Hubbard had called through the ritual. So essentially summoning her. Soon Parsons began the next stage of series, an attempt to conceive a child through sexual magic with the woman in red, the Scarlet Woman.
So is he the goat man in the scenario?
The Scarlet Woman, like in the Matrix?
Yeah, the woman in the red dress. That's also another point in the tie-in. That's more of a modern day reference.
Pay no attention to the woman in red dress.
Yeah,
the devil is a woman in a red dress.
I saw you were distracted. You were looking at the woman in red, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the Scarlet Woman. So it goes back to this child. So although no child was conceived, okay, this was with Jack Parsons. This did not affect the result of the ritual to that point. Parsons and Cameron, who Parsons now regarded as the Scarlet Woman, Babylon, called forth through the ritual. They soon married. Parsons claims to have received a transmission from the
goddess or the force called Babylon, and then he wrote Liber 49, which is the Book of Babylon, which later became an addendum to Crowley's The Book of the Law.
Okay.
So this all goes back to back then, and there's so many connections. Just in this ritual alone, with the woman in a red dress, you see this in pop culture, the impregnating by the beast, who later, even the woman in red in this, his wife later claimed when he died that he became the beast.
And just to reiterate that point, the guy who did these ceremonies and who wrote this book of Babylon, Jack Parsons was the founder of JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA.
Right, he was one of the fathers of rocketry at NASA.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, and so what's also crazy interesting about this is, so when he died, Parsons died, he was working in his home laboratory, right, and there was an explosion. He was working with chemicals and stuff for like a movie that they were going to shoot for NASA or whatever. But he died, and they cremated him. And when they cremated him, they scattered his ashes in the same desert, Mojave Desert, where they summoned Babylon in the first place. I mean, they were so deep into the occult. Like the OTO, the Order Templi Orientis from Aleister Crowley, had like a ceremony for him after he died. And she went on to claim a lot of things about Parson after he died, like that he had become the beast and all this kind of stuff.
Crazy.
And it just seems like they're trying to replicate that throughout time. When you look at red dress symbolism in music award ceremony and its ties to cult and music, and then ceremonies of these ritualistic tunnel openings. I mean, it's just insane.
These people believe this, like Christians believe in Jesus. Like these people definitely, it's not like they're just having fun. And that's why when people say stuff like, we don't really believe in it, I don't know if I believe that. I don't think that, I'm sure there's some people, but who was the one? Was it Anton LaVey that said he doesn't really believe that there's any sort of devil or anything?
Right. It's supposedly like an atheistic religion, but that's kind of a contradiction of
But
terms.
it was based off of Crowley's work. The Church of Satan was based off, and he was. I think Anton LaVey was a member of the OTO, which was Aleister Crowley's, I think, branch or creation after the Knights of the Golden Dawn. But anyways, it all goes back to that. Like Aleister Crowley would be the father of that movement, the grandfather of that movement. So it all connects back to this,
And you can't really say like, well, I do believe in an evil Satan God and I do want to do all these horrible things. You have to lie about it and not,
Well, that would be the idea that the best trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist.
He's the great deceiver. Like, that's the whole point. And he's not going to tell you the truth.
And to tie this back into CERN, I guess this is one kind of off-the-wall connection, but that goat, right, the goat-headed man, the Baphomet character at this tunnel in Switzerland, the ceremony opening, harkens back to Cernunnos, the horned god of the underworld, who was the god worshipped by the Celts in Switzerland. And before he...
Cernunnos sounds a lot like CERN.
CERN, right? And before he appears coming out of this screen, you see like it's very pagan. Right before that, they have all these people dressed in like their modern business attire, like maybe representing the dignitaries there, and they're carrying these baskets of sticks and wood, walking up to the screen almost like an offering to this pagan god. And then he comes out as the beast impregnating the Scarlet Woman. I mean, there's just so many connections. And this is just a tunnel opening in Switzerland next to CERN.
And I think you can argue, and I think they have argued, part of it I think you can argue away by saying, okay, well, they have certain symbolism there that is a cultural reference to the pagan cultures that lived in that area at a certain time, or it's kind of national historical sort of thing. But that makes sense with some of the stuff, but the ceremony of the woman in red impregnating her to have another daughter, that seems like a whole other thing that they tied into it. So you can't say the whole thing is like, well, there was a god Cernunnos and we threw him in there.
Right.
But what is he doing? He's doing very occult things, not pagan things.
Well, and if you watch the video, which we'll link in the show notes, what also is bizarre is the woman in red comes out carrying a little purse which has like a white cross on it, which I think would represent Switzerland, right? Their flag.
Right.
And she's wearing all red, and they're playing the Swiss horns, those trumpets you see on the Ricola commercials. So it's all very like...
It kind of sounds like the stuff we played. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh, true. The trumpet's there. Oh, another CERN connection. But anyway, so they're all like kind of celebrating at this point. It's gone past the dark screaming and stuff, and they're celebrating. You hear the Swiss music, and then he impregnates the woman in red, and they're all cheering. And they have a baby, and they raise her up, this daughter of the Scarlet Woman, and they're all cheering and playing the Swiss music. And while being impregnated, it reminds me of the idea that like this pagan culture and like the connection with the beast and stuff, that's all an undercurrent that's impregnating the modern culture. But there's this occult impregnating that happens when no one's paying attention because they're playing this music and they're all happy and they have bobbleheads of the dignitaries wobbling around and they're all cheering while these,
We should get some of our Swiss listeners to write it and tell us if they thought this was strange.
Yes.
Because I bet they did.
What did you say the name, was it Cernunnos?
Cernunnos. Nunos. Yeah, one word, Sir Nunos, the Celtic god of the underworld.
You know what's weird is like, you remember how I was telling you about the Celine Dion commercial with the, you know, her clothing line is Celine Nunu. I don't know if that is.
Nunu. Maybe, man.
There's some really occult symbolism in that commercial as well.
We should touch on that on the Patreon when we do our...
Oh, what the hell, dude? No way. That can't be real. I'm looking at a snapshot. Oh, that is creepy as shit. What?
What is it?
Wow.
Tell us, John, tell us. Feed
so
us.
I'm looking at just a picture of like some article talking about her clothing line with a snapshot of when Celine's in the room when she just has transformed all the babies into homogenous, non-gender beings.
Uh-huh.
And there's a demon that's sticking its head above what looks like a little demon right next to one of the little places where they're keeping the babies. And this is not like, this isn't a conspiracy website. This is just
her video.
This is just promoting the clothing line.
Creepy. Sounds like Lady Gaga light.
Just insane, dude. Like, how can any parent look at this? There's stars all over the kids, like the.
So this was a clothing line for kids, right? For infants and kids.
Yeah, it's basically a non-gender, clothing line, so that kids can make, you don't own your children and they can make their own choices in life.
Right.
Sort of messaging.
You surrender your children. You remove like the community of like family and the traditions and stuff. You kind of get this idea of like the children belong to the universe, and the New Age idea, which translates to like
so disturbing,
belongs to the new world, right? Isn't that the name of her? Isn't there on one of their shirts it says New World?
It says New Order.
New Order, which is like the new order of systematic one world religion or belief system,
this is
right?
just this is as old as when we started talking about conspiracy theories. Like,
it all comes back, man.
It's just so out in the open now. It's like people are so, I think, dumbed down by all of the overload of this stuff that they can just come out in the open and say this stuff and like get away with it pretty much.
Well,
I'm going to send that picture over real quick and you can just take a quick look and tell me if you can spot the demon.
Okay, while you're sending that over, I wanted to say real quick, I think in a future episode, I'd like to do more on Jack Parsons and Babylon working in the desert, because this was what was interesting and ties into that woman in red, the Whore of Babylon, as Aleister Crowley called her, and you see in this ritual. So this is interesting. So Parsons died. When he died, they pulled him to the hospital after this explosion tore through his face and his arm, and I think one arm was amputated, but he died 37 minutes after arriving at the hospital. He died at the age of 37. And what's interesting...
That's how old I am.
One of the occult meanings of the number 37 in numerology is the individual evolution in the cosmic organization, which sounds like that harkens back to CERN, cosmic organization of particles. And that's kind of a twist.
That's our lucky number.
What's interesting too is that I checked, I just Googled, because you're on the conspiracy rabbit hole. I was like, I wonder what the 37th verse is in the Book of Babylon that Jack Parsons dictated from this beast of Babylon, or the Whore of Babylon in the desert. I wonder what the 37th passage is, since there's all these connections with 37 with his life and death. The passage 37 from the Book of Babylon from his transmission was, "For I am Babylon, and she my daughter, unique, and there shall be no other woman like her." The daughter of Babylon that we saw coming out of the Scarlet Woman, the Whore of Babylon, being impregnated and having, it's always a daughter, which I just thought is weird, that kind of connection. I mean, this is like, you start to see all these dots, and they have these connections, and you can go down, and this is all from Wikipedia, like the Scarlet Woman, the Whore of Babylon, the Book of Babylon, this ceremony, Babylon working, right? Just Google that and read about it on Wikipedia. You can go down a rabbit hole of clicking on links to different like occult connections, and it's all like mainstream if you dig. It's all like,
I dig it.
Quote fact-based.
There's only so many dots you can connect before you realize like there's things going on in our world it's frightening, honestly. Like I know this is a fun show and we try to keep it light, but the more and more I dig into this stuff, and as long as we've been digging into it, over 15 years probably at this point, like it's just scary, man, where our world's headed. And I know I'm not trying to be a downer or anything, but I just can't believe how out in the open this stuff is, and how for
those with eyes to see, that's the thing, because it's out in the open, but it's not I mean, it's hidden in plain sight, right?
Hidden in plain sight.
For those
for
of
sure.
eyes to see, like you have to be aware of, the more you're aware of like the occult and like their rituals and what they put out there as like kind of their designs and what they want to have happen and what they do in practice, you start seeing this in formal ceremonies at the highest levels of media, the highest levels of government with these opening ceremonies. I mean, you just have all these connections, and some people state out openly that they're occultists if you dig and look, and sometimes it's just pointed to through ritual, but it's all at the upper echelons of society in every form, you know? Gosh darn it.
Well, it's been that way since the beginning, you know?
Take a quick look at that picture that I sent you.
It's been that way since the beginning, you know, with the secret schools, the Egyptian secret schools.
Well, it goes, but it goes back
We're
to...
taught now that like anything that's not material is not worth looking into as a culture.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, like it's kind of crazy to think that we tend to believe that like none of this stuff goes on in the upper echelons of society. At least most people don't believe that. But if you think about it, that's how it's always been in the past. Why wouldn't it still be that way today?
Keep the people dumbed down.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the photo now here.
Did you blow it up? Can you see that little being with its head sticking out?
Oh, is that the one on the left side?
No.
Like, oh my, is that real?
Yeah.
Did you send it to me? I didn't get it. Oh yeah, it looks like there's a couple of them. There's one to the right if you looking sideways. It's like that this big...
But that one's specifically like looking at the camera.
Oh yeah.
I have no
Here you
opinion.
go, Chris. I'm going to show this to you. And then there's like this weird crosses in the back, like a white glowing cross with black crosses.
Yeah, doesn't this look comforting for children? Like, this is the way we should... Like, what is comforting about this? Even if you don't, believe in gender roles anymore and you want... This has nothing to do with that. If you just look at this imagery, it's like
darkness.
dark.
Yeah, like she's wearing all
dark.
black. There's black crosses in the background. It's like...
Can you imagine putting your child in a nursery like this?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what the hell are you talking about?
Are you going to paint your kid's room pink or black? Well, we're not. You're going to let the child decide. So or pink
Black.
or blue. Pink or blue. So we'll let the child decide. We'll just paint it black
pick
for
black
now.
with crosses and little demons sticking their heads above. And then
it's creepy.
Then we'll call it Celine Nunu, and it'll be all good.
If she, it's funny because like it would be much easier to say it's just like, well, she's just trying to say that like, the children are span out into the universe of potential possibility. But why, if you wanted to do that, why wouldn't you make like these little demonic alien looking things around the cribs? Why wouldn't you make them like fun colored? They're black shadow people with giant eyes staring into the cribs over these helpless children. It's just weird. Weird stuff, guys.
Yeah, it's fucking disturbing. It's not weird. It's like these people are into shit.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's disturbing.
I'm sorry. It's so unbelievable that this is going on in our world. And it's just like, this is the future if we don't speak. I have to say things about this. This is crazy, dude.
Well, I do think we need to have a bit more awareness of the occult and how it is connected at the higher levels so we can start seeing this stuff happening, and
if you
asking
care
more
about your
questions.
children, if you care about the future of humanity, you have to understand this stuff. You
Right.
have to at least understand how it's being exposed to us on these levels without our even knowing it. It's so in our faces at this point that we don't even, we've been prepared for so long, through television and media to like accept these kinds of things and not even question.
We've been caressed like a turkey rub on a Thanksgiving turkey to like just be marinated and primed and ready for the picking. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, seriously. No, I mean, in the end, like I'm not trying to be too serious, but sometimes it's hard not to be, man. Like when you see this
I
stuff.
agree with you. I also think that like, not everything out there is a blatant representation of something. I think there's a lot of connections people make that aren't probably not based in
But there's enough that
actual
is.
truth, but it's easy. That's all I'm saying is like, I think there is a good reason to be concerned and to be aware, but at the same time, I don't know if the intensity and level of everything is so dark and so ever engrossing by everything that you see that's put out. Like, look at this. This is obviously satanic. I think a lot of times people connect dots when they want to see what they want to see.
Yeah, you're going to have that.
I think that's irrelevant. I know what you're saying, but like when there's enough of it that out there, it's like, yeah, sometimes you're going to make mistakes on what is or what isn't, but that's not the point.
Yeah, don't throw the baby out the bathwater, right?
Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah, not everything is satanic and not everything, but like...
As a cult.
Sometimes people just like dark stuff.
It's starting to be so apparent in our culture and so much is being pushed on us. It's like, I think making those mistakes is just an irrelevant part of the conversation at this point. Like, I don't know what to say about it, honestly. Like, I don't. I just know that I have very, very disturbing feelings about where our future is headed if we don't start waking up collectively as a culture. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this show, is because I want to make it fun, obviously, but there's going to be times of seriousness where I feel like I at least have to say that people should be aware of this and should protect themselves, because we're always being influenced by this stuff. And if you're not aware of it, you're going to be used and you're going to be manipulated, and it's going to be not as good of a life as you could have.
Right. And if you want to be like, I mean, there's a lot of skeptics out there, obviously, that are going to look at, oh, this is just science happening, right? Like it's CERN, like this is just, leave the scientists alone. They're just trying to do their thing. But if we look through history, there's been a constant tie. Like it used to be that science was tied with spirituality. Before science broke off and became this material thing, it used to be like Sir Isaac Newton, right? Was an alchemist. Like he believed in the spiritual energies and like connecting to the spiritual realms and
divining. And
divining.
I mean, you look at what's his name, Dee.
Oh yeah, John Dee.
John Dee. I mean, he was one of the first. He did a lot of great things for science, but he was also into some kind of dark.
He created the first library.
Divining.
He had the largest number of books in England at the time under it was Queen Elizabeth.
Right.
But he also was opening a portal to talk to the Enochian angels.
Right.
To learn the knowledge and the language of the angels. I mean,
yeah, he was the predecessor of Aleister
Science
Crowley,
has always been tied to spirituality.
And maybe like it still is. They just say it's not.
That's what I'm saying. Once it became, a faux pas, or people were concerned that there's this higher knowledge that they don't want to share with the people, they separate it out, filter it, give us the material. Everything matters, but nothing really has any meaning, right? It's all matter. It's all what we can feel and touch, and science is all about that. When in reality, like, science has always been tied to the religious and the spiritual, and these alchemical connections.
And I feel like it's kind of coming back towards it. I feel like the more we have these sorts of investigations through CERN and other advanced technologies, I feel like there is sort of a movement towards like, oh, I guess these things we used to think were made up were real. We just didn't have a name for them. We called them spirits, or we called them whatever, you know, that I think they might say it's explaining phenomena. Really, you're just labeling ancient phenomena that's been there forever.
Right.
And I think regardless of like, yes, and I agree. I think there are creepy, potentially terrifying occult things going on there. But I think even aside from that, I think what they're doing is terrifying. I think that even scientists that work there are frightened because they're tampering with things that they don't understand. And we do that. We do that over and over throughout history. We could be creating the end of ourselves.
Look at the cathode ray tube where we get television from. The guy who invented that was trying to connect to another dimension. He was trying to get information, trade information from like otherworldly entities or old gods or demons or whatever you want to call them, and he ended up inventing the television. Thomas Edison was trying to speak to spirits when he created the radio, right?
Yeah, or the phonograph. Was it the radio?
Or what, telephone,
one of those.
Yeah, one of those. But anyways,
not the telephone.
Science has always been interested in connecting with this stuff, but now we seem to be separating it, and the masses of people, the sheeple, are walking blindly forward into this world of science in this future, not realizing technology is still linked to the spiritual. We can go on with this forever, and we will.
So
in
the bottom
next
line
episode.
is protect your souls, because, we have this body, but if you believe there's something else that comes after this and you get too manipulated by this, that's what I'm more worried about long term. I don't really care about the physical in this lifetime, but if you become attached and start following this unconsciously, like, I don't know what happens after this lifetime, but I'm pretty sure something keeps going. And if you're attached to dark energy, like, you're not going to somewhere good. So,
yeah, even if you're stuck in like a hell of your own making after this, or lost in the afterworld,
or who knows what? I mean, it could be a situation where you're just all of a sudden,
anchorless,
propelled into another dimension where you have entities that have way more ability.
And they're feeding on you if you're susceptible.
Hopefully, it's much better than that.
Or if you're trapped in Celine Nunu's clothing factory for eternity.
Exactly. Ooh,
fun.
Listening to that song from Titanic over
My heart will go on.
My heart will be eaten by demons. Okay, and on that note,
let's leave it on a positive note. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You have already eaten all that turkey at this point.
Yeah, probably a week ago at this point.
Yeah, when it comes to all this dark stuff, like, I just want to say that I'm aware of this stuff all the time, but I try to live my life like you appreciate the good, the smiles from people,
strangers.
That's
how you combat it against it, I think, honestly.
Yeah, you can't let this stuff, because I think they win if you get bogged down in the negativity and the dark.
For sure, yes.
You gotta love your friends, you gotta have laughs, have a few drinks, and just have a good time, but just be aware of this in the background.
I think it's good to be interested in this stuff, but it's not good to let it absorb your life and make it an obsession. That's when things get dark.
No, I think the way you fight back is just become a better person and love harder, and just
love harder.
Seek love harder. Yes,
believe
people
whole,
more.
Love hard. That'll be our
love harder.
Love harder. Love hardest. All right, guys. Well, love hard. Thanks for tuning in to this episode on CERN and Skyquakes and Celine Dion.
And Babylon Working. Tune in for the next episode. It's going to be great. We don't know what the topic is. But
I got some ideas. We'll have a meeting and we can all
there's a ton of
throw out some ideas here.
This stuff never ends, guys. The belief hole is deep.
Yeah, so we will see you 2 weeks from today.
Absolutely, dude.
Alrighty.
Don't forget, check out Patreon, leave some reviews if you want, and keep your eye out for the merch shop. Well, maybe we might drop a little 2-minute announcement. So if we drop something that's not on a Wednesday, don't get too excited. It's probably not an episode. It's going to be a little ad if we decide to do that. But
like us wherever you can, star us, heart us, rate us. It really does help us get seen by more people, and we can keep doing the show. So
yeah, we love you.
We won't have to deliver pizzas till midnight every night. That'd be nice. Okay. All right, guys.
All right, everybody.
We love you.
Talk to you later.
Take care. Adios.
Bye-bye.